I'm here with Sheriff Bova to talk about our response to something that's been on a lot of people's minds, and that is how we're dealing in this community, in this metro area, with the very important issue of missing persons. I certainly recall when Sheriff Bova called me, it was a couple hours before the general public knew about it, that Amanda Berry and Gina DeJesus and who we later learned was Michelle Knight had been found. I'm sure we had the same response here at the county that most people did. First of all, relief and happiness for the families that had found that their loved ones were still alive and were going to be reunited with them. Secondly, anger towards the individual who perpetrated it, and we hope that he gets the sentence that he deserves, but also just kind of disbelief that somebody could treat another human being like that. But then we also, after the dust kind of settled, we really looked at our own policies and procedures to try to figure out if there's anything that we could do to lessen the chances that something like of this nature could happen again. And we're determined to do that. Now, the one thing that a lot of folks don't know is that we've been working on these issues for a while. We have a public safety master plan that we unveiled earlier this year, and it includes increasing the efforts that the county makes to help with the location of missing persons. Within the United States, there's about 85,000 people that are listed as missing at any one time. Most of those individuals that are reported missing are actually located in a pretty short period of time. And that happens because of efforts of local law enforcement, sometimes federal law enforcement, and families and friends. There are a lot of people that have been reported missing in this area. Just in the city of Cleveland, since 2006, there's over 19,000 people who have gone missing. But about since 2006, but about 99% of those have been located in a fairly short period of time. I'll give you an example. So in 2012, there were approximately 2,800 persons that were missing just in the city of Cleveland. But 2,786 of them have been located. There are still 14 that are missing from 2012. Now, that's just the city of Cleveland. That doesn't include all of our suburban areas. There are about 110, currently about 110 missing person cases still unresolved within the city of Cleveland. But again, we don't have conclusive numbers for the 59 communities that are contained in this county. And there's a real information gap, we believe, currently in terms of what's available to law enforcement and agencies and also the general public and families about who is missing in our larger community. In the state of Ohio, there's over 1,000 unsolved missing person cases. About 700 of those, by the way, are children. And now, while a majority of the missing person cases are resolved within 24 hours, those that remain become very significant, and they become really an emergency, a pressing emergency. So our goal in Cuyahoga County is to try to focus our attention on all missing person cases, but also to make sure that those that are not recovered, those individuals who are not found within 24 hours, remain a continued priority, that it doesn't fall through the cracks. So what we're announcing today is what we're calling a missing persons initiative. We have been working for decades, really, with local communities on these issues, but there are ways where we think we can do even better. This initiative is made up of several components. First of all, there's going to be a missing persons website and database, and I'm going to run through that with you in just a moment. We're also going to be hiring a missing persons liaison. This is going to be a person at the county, being paid for by the county, whose specific mission it is to make sure that these cases, again, don't fall through the cracks, and that we're continuing to make sure that we're refreshing the information that we have on these cases. And we're also going to be expanding our impact unit. Now, our impact unit, which is made up of about a dozen sheriff's deputies, was part of our public safety initiative last year. These are additional sheriff's deputies that are available for deployment throughout the county. And I would note, and the sheriff may expand on this a little bit, they were already used in the course of this investigation after the the young women were discovered on Seymour Avenue. They were used to help with some of the evidence collection and control of the crime scene and search warrants and so forth. But we're talking about adding 2 additional deputies who would specifically focus on missing person cases. Now, we're going to go and we're going to run through some things with our website now. But currently, there's no local website that really captures all of the missing persons in Cuyahoga County. This is going to be a website maintained and operated by the county that will be maintained on a regular basis to ensure that missing persons who are missing for longer than 24 hours continue to be highlighted. It's going to include missing children and missing adults. It's also, let's run through it. So it's going to be, this is kind of the front page of it. Not only can you search the database for missing persons, you can also get in contact with community resources. It will give you tips and information and advice about how to keep your family safe, what you can do to help law enforcement, what to do if someone that you know goes missing, and we'll have links to other helpful resources. There's also a button on here to report a person as missing. Just like earlier this week, by the way, when we talked about the iWatch system, it isn't a replacement for 911, but it is a way that if you have information that you want to share with law enforcement, you can do so. Also, another interesting feature is that any person who accesses the website can also print a poster of a person that is listed as missing. So if they want to print out that poster and put it in their neighborhood or places of worship or their workplace or wherever they think it's appropriate, they can do that. The recently reported missing persons are going to be highlighted because what we know from statistics is that your greatest chance of recovering somebody is in those early days, in early hours when they are first reported missing. I want to talk a little bit about the other 2 aspects then of what we're doing with our Missing Persons Initiative. One is we're going to have a Missing Persons Liaison. They're going to be an employee of the Sheriff's Department, and they're going to be dedicated not just to this website, but also interfacing with local law enforcement. Again, it's a real challenge in this county because we actually have more than 59. I think we have 63 separate law enforcement agencies, local law enforcement agencies in Cuyahoga County. And it's difficult sometimes for them to share information with one another and make sure that everybody knows what they know, and that's very important. So this individual is going to be doing that on a full-time basis. It's the first time we've ever had that in the history of the county. They're also going to be working with kind of our national and state resources. So State Attorney General's office, the National Missing Person and Exploited Children databases, and that's also important as well. There's sometimes gaps in these various databases, by the way. So sometimes there's a national database that has a lot of information, but it's not necessarily easy for a local citizen to access that information, and this website and this liaison will help to do that. This person is also going to be responsible for maintaining and updating our social media presence in this area. This is a website, but it is also going to be linked to all of the county's social media. First of all the county's other websites. So we have a Sheriff's Department page. We also have a main county page. Of course, they'll all link to this, but we also have Facebook pages, Twitter feeds, and that will also, you'll be able to link to this by that as well. As far as the impact unit, as I said before, we're going to be expanding that by two people. They are going to supplement local law enforcement. They're not a replacement for local law enforcement. They're going to supplement local law enforcement. They're going to be assigned specifically to work on missing person cases. I think one of the things we've seen in this is a case is kind of a hot case for a while, and then it kind of goes cold after a while. It's important, I think, to have a couple law enforcement officers that are specifically assigned to these cases, no matter how hot or cold they may be. They're going to get specialized training in the area of missing persons, and they're going to work with families and community partners and local law enforcement. I hope what you see in this initiative is how seriously we take it. Now we have been working on this issue for quite some time, but the tragic events that unfolded on Seymour Avenue, I think, required us to expedite and step up some longstanding plans that we had, and we wanted the public to know that just like the public is is outraged about it. We're not just outraged about it, we're also determined that we're going to do everything possible to make sure that we don't have a repetition of what we saw. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Bova, and he's going to expand a little bit on some of the points that I made. Sheriff?
Thank you, County Executive. First off, I want to thank the County Executive for his vision and foresight in his initiatives for Cuyahoga County as it pertains to the safety and well-being of our citizens. Missing persons is a challenge for law enforcement as it pertains to adults. Missing is not in itself a crime. We must ascertain quickly if the missing adult is missing voluntarily or there are extenuating circumstances which would lead us to believe it is not voluntary. Our concept of a missing person liaison should assist us in filling this void. With continued communication with law enforcement agencies and family members of the missing, this will ensure the missing adults and the gathered information will constantly be updated and will not get stagnant. Missing juveniles in any jurisdiction brings a different dynamic and a sense of urgency to immediately locate that juvenile. When the initiative is fully implemented, any local law enforcement agency would be able to notify our impact unit and request additional manpower in the search and investigation of the missing juvenile, as they do now. But what will be different with the impact call-out will be the specially trained sheriff deputies who would focus attention on the missing person case as long as necessary. The website that we are constructing would put all missing persons and adults and juveniles from Cuyahoga County in one place. And with the new liaison from the Sheriff's Office monitoring the site, this will help our local law enforcement agencies and partners by taking the burden off the agencies of entry and removal of missing person data. Our liaison would control the databases and the input and delete from the local, county, state, and national websites as needed. The site will be a win-win not only for our law enforcement partners, but for the missing persons and their families. As the last few weeks has taught us, the search for missing person should be a never-ending mission for families, law enforcement, and our community partners. Thank you.
Great. I don't think we ever mentioned actually the name of the website, but it's missingpersonscuyahoga.org. I think we had it on the screen. Any questions for Sheriff Bova or myself?
When is the liaison going to start?
We're going to start the process of hiring, hopefully within the next 30 days.
And then the person will be hired, when do you expect that person to be on board?
Within the next 30
Within
days.
the next 30
Yes.
days, okay.
Any other questions?
What's been the reaction from the other communities in the county regarding the other police organizations, Sheriff? What's their feedback?
We're blessed in this county that all local law enforcement agencies and our federal partners and state partners, we have a good, close working relationship. And by us stepping forward to fill this void of communication, it's well received.
And we've talked to the Police Chiefs Association. They're very supportive of it. And we have a track record with them now, because when we started the impact unit, which has been, again, these dozen or so deputies that have been scheduled to help out with local law enforcement around the county, that's been very well received. And we have stats on that, the number of arrests they've made. They just have we've never had a dedicated portion of that unit that's focused on missing persons.